Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and even good evening. This is Dr. Bhawani Adhikari. Today he has brought a new poem, and the title of the poem is Lunatic. It is in Sastri first in Sanskrit University and BBS second in Tribhuvan University. The poem is in their syllabus. The Lunatic is the poet's own translation of his poem Pagal. It is an autobiographical poem, and the poet wears the persona of lunatic as if it were the mask. The poem is a modern expression of the deepest personal feelings of the poet and the surgical exposure of the hollowness of the so-called intellectual people of the time. The poet visualizes sound and hears the visible. He tests the fragrance and he touches those things whose existence the world denies. He sees a flower in the stone, and the enchantress of heaven smiles at him. He communes with nature and the animals, and they talk to him. Talk to me, and they talk to me means and they talk to him. There is me is wrong, it's typing mistake, and they talk to him means those animals talk to him. Him लेख्ने me होइन. He speaks in such a language that is never written, never printed, and never spoken. It is a language that is unintelligible. It is the language of the poet. The contemporary rulers were clever and eloquent, very good in speech. Their formulas are always running correctly, but in his calculation, 1 minus 1 is always 1. Ranas work with the five senses, but the poet works with the six senses. They have brains, but the poet has the heart. For the Ranas, rose is only a rose, but for the poet, rose embodies Helen and Padmini. They are strong prose, rulers are strong prose, but he is liquid poetry. The Ranas freeze, but he melts. They throw the mud at him, and he becomes muddy. When he is muddy, then they become clear. They have a world of solids, but his world is one of vapor. Their world is thick, and his world is thin. They take a stone for a hard reality, but it takes to catch a six to catch a dream in the stone. Their world is the world of money, gold and diamond, but his world is a badge of thorns. They call the mountains mute, means Ranas call the mountains mute, but he calls the mountains orators. In the cold winter, he bathed in the first white heat of the light, and they called him crazy. Back from the burning ghat, he sat for 7 days black-eyed. They looked at him and called him possessed, but he was shocked by the first frost on a fair lady's traces. His eyes filled and rolled for 3 days for the Buddha means peace, and they called him mad. When he danced in the arrival of the spring, they called him one gone crazy. The fools of the world put him in the stocks and dispatched him to Ranchi. His friends one came and pinched him and called him a madman and asked if his place was too dead. He was called he has called Nawab's wine all blood. He called the courtesans all corpses and the king pauper. He hated Alexander the Great, and he disliked high-souled ones. He raised the insignificant persons, and the rulers, highly educated people, are great fools of the poet. Their heaven is his hell, and their gold is his iron. Their piety is his sin. When they feel clever, there he finds them stupid and innocent. Their progression is a regression to him. Their universe is only a hair for him. He finds the blind, the people's pioneers. He calls the defeated one the winner. The advancement is a retreat, and maybe he is cracked. The leaders climb the platform of lies, and they are the detester of humanity. They speak in a loud voice with shameless leadership. They break the backbones of the people's rights. The sparrow-headed bold prince of black lies on papers, and his hero called reason challenged him by those sparrow-headed prince. His hair rises like the serpent traces of Gorgons, and he cannot see the tiger pouncing upon the innocent deer or the big fish after the smaller ones. Then, even his corroded bones get the terrible strength of the sea. When man regards a man as no man, then he grins his 32 teeth like Bimsen's teeth. He looks at this inhuman human world, then, like the tongue of fire, all his machine parts of body jump out of the place. His breath swells into the storm. His face is distorted. His brain is in the blaze, and he wants to be like a bird that steals the heavenly fire. He has to become the child of the tempest and wild eruption of the volcano, and he is in such a plight. The poet confesses that he is insane. He has a different power of sense. He visualizes sound, hears the visible, tastes the fragrance, and touches the things which cannot be touched. He thinks that the king is poor, and so called highly learned men are fools and stupid of the world for him. He speaks the language of the poet who communes with nature. The ruler's formula are always running correctly, but for him 1 minus is always 1. It means if we take out absolute from absolute, what remains is absolute in philosophical interpretation. In a historical sense, the death of A class Rana would pass the power to B class, and the death of B class power would go to C class, but not to the people. The poet brings his own personal events and experiences of his own life. He finds innocent people being poisoned and mistreated, and he becomes furious. So he wants to burst like a volcano, a forest fire, and a tempest. He wants to establish peace in the country, to beautify and purify this beautiful world by destroying the ugly things like inhumanity, hypocrisy, opportunism, opportuni- opportunism, opportunism, and cruelty. The poet is ready to suffer for the people, peace, harmony, equality, and justice, and for that he is ready to burn down all the inequalities and injustice constructed by the contemporary ruler Ranas. This is how the poet has brought the real picture of the ruling system of Rana's time when he was burned. In fact, this poem is the real expression of the inner thoughts and feelings whatever the poet has found. Lakshmi Prasad Devkota himself was the person who had to bear all the injustice, and he saw all the things what was going on in the country. He did not like and he did not want to see the people being poisoned in front of him, being killed in front of him, and he was angry. He pretended that he was mad. He put the mask of just madness and then presented all the fact and truth to the people. If he had not acted as a mad person, he would have been punished to death by the rulers of the time. So he had to pretend that he was mad, and he got the opportunity to open all the truth, all the realities, whatever the things was going on inside the country. The rulers were enjoying wine. They were, and their wine was called the Nawab's wine, blood, people's blood. The Nawab's wine was people's blood. And the girls were captured. They were courtesans. They were prostitutes, whores in the control of the rulers. The king was helpless, powerless, and he was almost a pauper because he was also victimized by the rulers of the time. And leadership was not good. Leadership was going after speaking. with loud voice in a trumpet tongue, but it was meaningless. They were breaking the backbones of the people's right. They were also after the rulers, and it was meaningless and useless. He wanted to establish peace. He wanted to establish, bring Buddha. That means harmony, equality, justice. And for that, he had to become forest fire to burn them down. He had to become tempest to kill them. He had to become just the celestial board, the board, Prometheus, who brought the celestial fire and saved the life of the people, and he had to suffer a lot as a punishment. In the same way, he was ready to get the punishment from the rulers, but he was not ready to surrender. And the rulers called him. He was possessed, he was distraught, he was cracked, he was mad, and he was put in the stocks. And later, even he was sent to Ranchi for his treatment. But there, he did not have any treatment. He did not. After 6 months, he was to return back as a wise person. The doctor of Ranchi had written the prescription that his birth was in wrong geographical mistake, right? And then he brought a number of myths in his poems. When he saw big fish running after the fish, or tiger pouncing upon the deer, and his corroded bone also got the strength of Daditi. Daditi was powerful sage. When the demons got and and the gods were in the war, gods came to seek help, support from Daditi. And at that time, Daditi has given his one bone to fight with the demons. And with the help of the bones, gods were able to defeat the demons. In the same way, his corroded, old, rotten bones also got the strength of Daditi when he saw the innocent people drinking poison as Amrisia in front of him. And then he really brought the myth of Helen and Padmini. Helen was the most beautiful girl of the world, and there was a 10 years war because of Helen. And he sees Helen in the stone. He sees Padmini in the stone. Padmini was beautiful queen of Rajput. There was a war in Muslim and the Hindus, and at that time the Hindus got defeated, and they wanted to carry that queen Padmini by the Muslim. At that time, she burned down herself to death instead of going to the winners and become the victims, become the wife of them. These things he sees that he talks with the animals, he talks with the nature, he enjoys with the beauty of the nature, and he speaks with the language of the poet, which is never written, which is never printed, which is never spoken, and other people do not understand him. And the sparrow-headed newspapers come in bold letters, and those newspapers blame him. And at that time, and false news come in the country, and at that time he becomes quite uncontrolled. And the reason means knowledge, ideas, logic, whatever he had in his mind that got challenged with the newspapers, and that his hero was challenged. So he used to grin his teeth like Bhimsen's teeth. And he just is opposite from normal people. So it is natural for other people to call him mad because he visualizes the sound which is not to be visualized. He tastes the fragrance. Just sees the he smells like see invisible. He touches the invisible things. So all the things whatever he does is quite opposite to the normal man, beyond the understanding of normal man, and it was natural for the rulers to call him mad and send him to Ranchi and put him to stocks. In fact, he says that the world of rulers was the world of solid, world of diamond, world of money, world of pleasure, world of joys, comfort. But the world of the poet was the world of just pain, suffering, and the badge of thorn. Their world, Rana's world, was the world of comfort and money, but his world was the world of vapor. So their progress was his regression. Their gold was his iron. Their piety was his sin. Their positive things, whatever they thought, was negative for him because they had not done anything for the country. They were, in fact, doing or destroying the country, and that he could not see, that he could not bear, tolerate in front of his own eyes, whatever he saw there in the country. This is how he has really attacked the ruling system of the contemporary time. It is a protest poem. He protests against all the rulers of the time. It is a rebel against the just time of the rulers of the time, especially the Ranas. This is how the poet has captured the true sense of the ideas of the time, and he has brought all his personal events and experiences of life and exposed or just presented the fact to the common people so that they could understand and they could just get revolted against the existing system and the rulers. Is he thought, is the writer himself, the poet himself thought, and he wanted to make it. All right. In short, in Nepali, I want to talk even to those readers who are just unable to understand in English. यस कवितामा पागल कविता बनेछ। किन पागल बन्यो भन्दाखेरि उनले जे गर्छन् ती सबै गरेका कुरा पागलले जस्तै गर्छन्, सामान्य मान्छेले त्यसलाई बुझ्न सक्दैनन्। उनी देख्नेलाई सुन्छन्, सुन्नेलाई देख्छन्, स्वाद लिनेलाई चाख्छन्, सुगन्ध लिनेलाई चाख्छन्, सुगन्ध लिनेलाई स्वाद लिन्छन्। यी सबै कामले गर्दा उनीलाई पागलकै रूपमा देख्छन् त्यति बेलाका शासकहरूले। यो त्यति बेलाका शासकहरूको विरोध गरेको कविता हो। आफ्नै अनुभव, आफ्नै घटनाहरूलाई ल्याएर सम्पूर्ण कुरामा उनले यसलाई प्रतिरोध गरेका छन्। यो कवितामा प्रतिरोध गरेका छन्। राजालाई भिखारी भनेका छन्, पौपोर भनेका छन्, तिनीहरूको सुन्दरतालाई पाइटीलाई सिन भनेका छन्, उनीहरूको उन्नतिलाई अवन्नति भनेका छन्, उनीहरूको संसारलाई उनको के त एउटा भेपोर बादल जस्तो भनेको छ, उनीहरूको स्वर्गलाई आफ्नो हेल हो भनेका छन्। र यसरी उनले राणाहरूले त्यति बेलाका शासकहरूले देख्ने ढुङ्गालाई ढुङ्गा भन्थे भने उनले फुल देख्थे, उनले पद्मिनी देख्थे, उनले गोरगञ्ज उनलेको चाहिँ हेलेन देख्थे। जब इनोसेन्ट सामान्य मान्छेलाई विष खुवाएर मारिन्थ्यो आफ्नै अगाडि, त्यति बेला उनका कपालहरू चाहिँ गोर्गनको सिस्टरको जस्तै सर्प जस्तो भएर कपाल ठाडो पर्थे। गोर्गन भनेको मिथ हो, जहाँ मिथमा चाहिँ उनलाई कपालै सर्पको रूपमा भएको छ, ठाडो परेका हुन्थे। अनि उनी बुद्धको लागि, शान्तिको लागि, समानताको लागि, सबैलाई पिसको लागि त्यो सम्पूर्ण दोष चाहिँ ठुला मान्छेहरूलाई चाहिँ होच्याएर सानालाई माथि उचालेर नेताहरूलाई गाली गरेर उनी नेताहरू भनेका असल होइनन् भनेर उनी स्वर्गको त्यो प्रोमिथियस बर्डले एकचोटि मान्छेहरूलाई बिजोक हुँदाखेरि आगो ल्याइदिएर जनतालाई दिएर अनि त्यो चराले जसरी दुःख पाउनु परेको थियो, कष्ट पाउनु परेको थियो, त्यसरी नै बरु आफू कष्ट पाउन तयार छु, तर यो अन्याय अत्याचार देखेर बस्न हाँस्न टुलु बस्न सक्दिनँ भनेर यो कुरा उनले कवितामा ल्याएका छन्। उनलाई पागलको बाहना गरेर उनले जनताका सबै कुराहरू, यथार्थ कुराहरू जनतालाई भनिदिने गर्थे र राणाहरूले उनलाई पागल हो भन्थे। ठिङ्गुरामा राखेका थिए, स्टक्स भनेको सिङ्गुरा हो, राँची पठाएका थिए उपचार गर्नका लागि। राँचीमा 6 महिना बस्दाखेरि उनलाई यो जन्म नै जियोग्राफिकल मिस्टेक भएछ भनेर त्यहाँबाट फर्काइदिएका थिए 6 महिना पछाडि डाक्टरहरूले। यसरी उनी त्यति बेला त्यहाँको शासकलाई सक्नका लागि भोल्कानो भनेको ज्वार भाटा हुन चाहन्छन्, फोरेस्ट फायर भनेको जङ्गलको डढेलो हुन चाहन्छन्, अनि टेम्पेस्ट भनेको आँधी बेरी त्यो सुनामी भएर यिनीहरू सबलाई जलाएर मारेर शासकहरूलाई मारेर म चाहिँ जनताका लागि न्यायका लागि मर्छु, बाँच्छु भन्ने भन्थे। राणाहरूको लागि फर्मुला 1 - 1 इज अलवेज 1 भनेको 1 मा 1 घटा 1 हुन्छ भनेको उनले चाहिँ 1 मा 1 उनका अरूका लागि माइनस होला, 0 होला, उनका लागि 1 हुन्छ भनेको। 1 लासको राणा मर्दा शक्ति बीमा जान्थ्यो, बीको मर्दा सीमा जान्थ्यो, जनतामा नआउनु थियो। त्यसले गर्दा ए मा ए माइनस गर्नु भनेको ए नै हो भन्ने उनले ऐतिहासिक व्याख्या गरे हुन्। अनि अर्को चाहिँ पूर्ण वस्तुबाट पूर्ण निकाल्दा पूर्णै रहन्छ भन्ने फिलोसफिकल व्याख्या गरेर यसरी राणाहरूको सम्पूर्ण रूपमा चिरफार गरेर त्यहाँभित्रको अन्य अत्याचारलाई देखाइदिएका जनताका सामु राखिदिएर यो कवितामा प्रोटेस्ट गरेका छन् भनेर लेख्ने हो। दिस इज हाउ द पोइट हेज रियली क्रिएटेड द ट्रु bitter reality of the time, of his time. At that time, the rulers were not in just good kind. They were dictators. They were unkind. They regarded man as no man. They regarded This world was the world without of justice, peace, and harmony and love. People were suffering. People were not having anything to eat, but they were poisoned were if they just revolted, and they were poisoned, and they were mistreated, and they were just see victimized, and only the rulers were enjoying the power. And the poet exactly wanted to establish peace, democracy, equality, and then justice to all the people of Nepal of the time of Ranas. This is a bitter realities that the poet has brought about the historical events of this country of the past. This is a short, and maybe you can understand it